I have a lot to talk about in this video because I have been mostly just thinking about books recently. That's all my mind wants to be thinking about, and there's a lot of ideas going around in here about books I want to read, certain goals that I have, books that I've just gotten recently, so we got a haul. So we're going to be talking about a lot of things, and a lot of those, the categories I just said, like currently reading, goals, books I just hauled, they kind of are, a lot of those things are connected, so we might be like going back and forth between a lot of things. I don't know, we're just gonna do what makes sense to my brain. And I think the first thing that I need to say is, since I haven't made a video in a while, so hey, just about like a little review for my reading year. It's been pretty mid. I've only had a few 5 stars, and I only have like 3 favorite books of the year, which I'm just gonna like shout out right now. But yeah, it's been a mid reading year, and I'm hoping maybe at the end here, like I feel like I'm picking up the enthusiasm for reading again, and hopefully maybe I'll fit in some favorite books at the end, or at least I'll just like start out next year with a good reading year. It's hard, you can't really make yourself have a good reading year because you don't know how you're gonna feel about the books, but the books that I have felt good about so far are The Moomin Comics by Tove Jansson. I don't really know exactly if I pronounce her name correctly, but I know it's not Tove Jansson. But The Moomin Comics. This is like the first volume, but I also have a like deluxe edition that has like all of her Moomin comics in them. These are just wonderful, and I love her and her books and her most of the things this woman has made. I love them. So yeah, these are like really, I don't know, just made me happy. It's good vibes. And then also, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman, the Belgian author. Yes, Belgian author. And I would also like to say both of these books I read in January. So yeah, it's been pretty dry since then. But this dystopian book, if you don't know, very like melancholy, a lot of reflection, introspection, just a beautiful book. Okay, that's what I'm saying about that. And then a slightly more recent read is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, which is nonfiction. The little subtitle is Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants. Love this one. It's pretty long, and I read it kind of slowly, which I think was the right move, because if you try to read it like too fastly, I could see how it may seem like repetitive at parts, because it is a little, but spreading it out helped. And just so much, like everything almost of what she talks about in this book just feels like an inherent truth. It's like, no, I get it. me and Robin, we know what's going on. Again, like, it's inspiring, it's hopeful, but also kind of a reminder of a lot of bad things, like how people currently are very disconnected to nature and the environment, even though we're a part of it. But yeah, very good. So then, thought I should talk about some things that I've currently read that I just want to mention. But like some of the things that I'm currently reading, like I said, are also tying into like my haul and some goals that I have, but whatever. So the first thing I want to mention is The Count of Monte Cristo, which I read the whole thing and I enjoyed it. So this is just like a little review, I guess. I don't know. I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 out of 5. Didn't love it. I was kind of hoping to love it and maybe a little bit expecting to love it just based on things I've been hearing lately. Like, I feel like everyone I hear talk about this book just talks about how much they love it and how it's a new favorite. Unfortunately, not a new favorite. I didn't like super connect with the characters or have like a large, oh, that's my cat if you can hear that. Oh. Yeah, I didn't have a strong emotional connection to the characters. Even Edmund, the main character, at times, or kind of a lot of the book actually, after a certain point, I was like, I don't really find you likable. I didn't really like him. But this is a very entertaining, very readable book. It's like 1270 or pages or something, over 1200 pages, and I read this I think it was a little over 2 weeks. And when you compare that to other classics of a similar size like War and Peace or even Anna Karenina, which is shorter than this one, I read this way faster than those books. So don't be intimidated by this if you're interested in reading this, because it's very easy to read. It is compelling and engaging. You want to know what's going on and what's happening. I will say the first 200 pages might have been my favorite, and then so the first 200 pages and then the last maybe 300 pages were probably the best in my opinion. There was a little part in the middle where I maybe was bored for a second, but I didn't say that. But yeah, overall, I think worth it as a read. Happy that I read it. Another big book has been crossed off the list. I did annotate it, sort of. Most of my annotating is just highlighting and underlining, but with reading this, I have been wanting to annotate more classics and try to actually write more of my thoughts in the margins and do that a little bit more. So we'll see. And then one of the books that I'm currently reading is The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. It was published relatively recently, but this is an actual diary, a naturalist diary that was made for the year 1906. And so it's really it has her handwriting in there, all her illustrations, paintings. I really like seeing stuff like this because you can see how humans have stayed the same over the centuries and how we will never change in certain ways. Being so fascinated by the natural world and wanting to observe it and keep a record of it. And it's just kind of comforting to read this and see how Miss Edith is watching the birds, and it's I'm watching the birds. We're the same. 100 years apart, but we're the same. Now I think I'm gonna start talking about some of my goals that I've been thinking about recently, which ties into some of the books that I have acquired and am currently reading. So one of the goals that I made it this year. I don't really remember when. I've only completed one thing off of this list that I made, which is an author list. Specific authors that I think I need to read from that are very important in some way, and I'm I need to read these authors. So I made a list which consisted of Charles Dickens, Clarice Lispector, I'm sorry, Audre Lorde, Toni Morrison, and then just a Bronte. I wasn't specific there. I was just any Bronte sister. I feel I need to read from one of them. And that's the only one I've completed so far. I have read Wuthering Heights. And I would like to read from all three of the Bronte sisters. The ones I'm most interested in next are The Tenant of Wildfell Hall and Jane Eyre. So I might get Jane Eyre soon. Well, maybe we'll talk about that later. I don't know. But that's the only author that I've completed from the list. But I'm currently reading Near to the Wild Heart by Clarice Lispector. And I have gotten 2 Charles Dickens books and an Audre Lorde book. So let's talk about some of the haul. Here's some of my haul. So for the Charles Dickens, I have Great Expectations, which, I don't know, it's just in this fancy looking hardcover. I don't know, the side here it says Nelson Doubleday, so possibly that's like the publisher. So I have Great Expectations, and then I also have Dombey and Son, which is in the Penguin edition. I'll be reading Great Expectations first. I'm planning on reading this year. I have read A Christmas Carol from Charles Dickens, but I was like, I feel like that doesn't count. We need a novel from him. So this will be first. And then at some point, Dombey and Son, I didn't realize how long this was when I bought it. Like, obviously it's a larger book, but it's like 900 pages or something. Yeah. I just read a very long book, so I need a little bit of a break. And both of these books I got from a local used book sale that happens where I live. It happens 2 times a year, and I go every single time. And they have very cheap books, so I don't, feel very bad about getting books from there because they're cheap. And I like reading, so it's like a good deal. This I bought new from a bookstore, but then, like I said, Audre Lorde was another author that I had on my list, and from, again, that used book sale, I found Sister Outsider, Essays and Speeches, which I was very excited to find because this was one of the specific books I was interested in reading. And I think this will be a good point to start, just because you're getting multiple essays and speeches, a lot of her ideas and writing are in there. So I'm not sure when I'll be getting to this, if it will be within this year, but relatively soon I'll be getting to this. Yeah, we'll move on. We'll get to the rest of the haul later, and we're gonna talk about this now. So, like I said, I'm currently reading this. I'm only like 27 pages in, but it's not a very long book. And again, like I said, Clarice Lispector was on my list of authors that I felt like I needed to read from. She is such an important Brazilian author. Just like reading the introduction to this, it was a very short introduction, but it was like very adamant. That's the word. Yeah. Very adamant about how important of an author she was and how she was very influential for the like Brazilian literature scene and how she brought something very new. And I'm also glad to be reading this because I realized that all of the Latin American classics that I've read are from men, and I'm like, yeah, it's good. Let's get a woman in there. Just a little something different. I have read contemporary novels that are from women in Latin America, but not a classic. And I feel like I haven't heard of many classic women Latin American authors. So maybe that's one of the reasons. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not in the right spaces where they're talking about them. But if you know of any other women authors that are Latin American, let me know in the comments because I would like to know. But so for that reason as well, I'm very excited to be getting to this. I will say, the first page, hold up, hold up, 1 second. If you can see by my underlining possibly and Is it focused? Oh. First page, I was already like, is this gonna be a new favorite book? Because this is one of the best first pages I think I've ever read in a book. That and We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I remember like that first paragraph of that book, I was like, it just pulls you in. It like jumps out and pulls you in. And that's what this first page is doing. Now I will say at page 27, I'm not sure if this will be a favorite book, but I am enjoying it. But it is difficult for me a little bit because of the writing style. It has a stream of consciousness writing style, which I always find, like personally, is hard for me to understand and get into, which I think is the case for a lot of people. And I feel like that writing style kind of is supposed to be a little confusing, like, I don't know. But it's possible for me that because of the writing style of this book that this won't be a new favorite. I'm not sure yet. It just feels like it's hard for me to get immersed because, you know, just when you're not exactly sure what's going on, you're kind of like, and you feel kind of stupid sometimes. But I already 27 pages in though, like the small amount that I've read, I've kind of already come to terms with, like, I'm not gonna know what's going on every single line, which is okay, like especially for a book like this. And I'm trying to focus on like the bigger ideas I'm seeing, you know, specific lines that like speak to me or jump out to me, and just getting like what I can out of the book. And I think that's the best way to go into something like this. I do enjoy her writing, but like I said, it is intimidating to me, and I'm not sure how I will feel by the end, but I am interested to read more of her books now, but also again a little intimidated because I picked this one to read first because it's her first novel, and I've heard it's a little bit more accessible than her other ones, and so I started here. But reading this, I'm like, if this is the easiest to read, then the other ones probably are pretty difficult. So I don't know, we'll see. But I think the fact that I'm already allowing myself to enjoy this one, and I do enjoy parts of her writing, I think I would be able to read the other books. It's just a little scary. But the one that sounds the most interesting that I've seen was, I think it's The Passion According to G.H. I think that's the title. That one seemed interesting to me. I would love to read more of her books, but like I said, I'm not that far in. We gotta see what happens. But I am excited to be reading this. So maybe now I'll talk about the other goal that I've just started figuring out in my head. Like, I've just put together like a reading list, which I'll share with you guys. And yeah, so this is very new. And this goal is to read really old books, like 16th century and earlier, because I love classics, but most of the classics that I have read would be considered like modern classics, or they're basically from the 19th and 20th century. So I would like to have a more well-rounded collection of things I've read. Is that the phrasing? You know what I mean. I would like to have read at least a decent amount from many different time periods. And so I've made a list of books that I'm interested in that are very old. Some of them like the oldest books ever, actually, which will also be interesting to read just from like the historical perspective. I also like history, so it's just interesting to see that. But some of these books, I do have one of them and I forgot to grab it, but whatever. It's over there, it's fine. But some of these books I might get soon, because the book sale that I've been mentioning is still going on. And I remember seeing the Epic of Gilgamesh there, but I didn't get it because at the time I didn't create this goal yet. And I also wasn't sure if it was the right edition or translation that I wanted, but now I know I do want that one. So if they still have it, I'll be going back to get that book, and then possibly looking at the rest of, like, they had like a medieval literature and like the classical lit section. It was like all in one area. So I'll go back and check if any of these other books are there. I'm not sure if they are, but we'll see. And possibly get Jane Eyre at the book sale also, because I didn't think I wanted to read the book, but then recently I saw somebody post about it on Instagram, and they put a bunch of quotes from the book, and I was reading the quotes and I was like, yeah, I actually want to read that. And so that would be good for me reading the Bronte sisters. But getting to my list, okay, I had to look up how to pronounce this. Enheduana? Does that look right? Enheduana. Yes, okay. So there's a book that it's just called Enheduana. I forgot who the like compiler / translator is, but Enheduana is the first known author who was a priestess in Mesopotamia. And so what we have from her, they're like what we would call poems, but they're like hymns. And so there's a book, I'll probably put a picture up here, of those poems, but I'm also pretty sure in this specific edition, the author of the book also has like commentary within there, and I think like maybe like a little analysis, but just I think it has extra content talking about the poems themselves, which I think would be very helpful in reading them and just interesting. So, and that's from around 2200 BCE. So I think that and the Epic of Gilgamesh are like the oldest ones on my list. The Epic of Gilgamesh I have written down as being like 2100 BCE, but some of these books, when I was like looking into them, they don't have specific dates, like especially the really old ones. Like we don't know exactly when they were written, but those are definitely the oldest on my list. And then I also have the 3 Theban plays, which is around like 400 BCE, and that is the one that I do already own. So yay. I'm not like super interested in like Greek literature, like ancient Greek literature, but I do already own it, and I think, I mean, it's good to fill in like some of the gaps here. Like I haven't read the Iliad or the Odyssey, which I should probably also read at some point, but they're not on my list right now, but yeah. And then I also have Beowulf on my list, which that one was another one where it was like, they don't know really when it was written. That one I'm not as interested in reading it, like, right now, but I put it on my list just to have, like, I want to have books from, like, you know, not, like, every century, because that would be hard, but I want to have, like, a range. Like, I don't want just to have, like, a bunch of ancient Greek books and then only 16th century books. Like, I'm trying to have a lot of different periods. And then I have the Book of the City of Ladies. Who is that by? I don't remember. I'm not really saying who these books are, but some, like, that Epic of Gilgamesh, though, is, like, anonymous. They don't know. Christine de Pizan. Okay, that's the author of the Book of the City of Ladies, which is from, like, 1405. That one, I think, is, like, a feminist book. Like, she's just, like, talking about basically feminist ideas, but from 1405, from my understanding. So that would be interesting. And then I also have the Popol Vuh, which, again, that's one where it's, like, I don't know when that story would have originated, because it started out as just, like, a oral tradition and story, which is from the Mayan, I'm sorry. I think it's from the Mayan. Yes, the Maya people. I knew that. But it was written down in the 16th century. And that I have read parts of already, actually. I took a class that was like pre-Columbian literature, so like Latin American literature, but like indigenous people. So I have read parts of it, but I don't think I read the whole thing. So I'd like to read that. And then I have Monkey Journey to the West, which is like 16th century as well. I'm going to read the abridged version. I usually am like, I don't like to read abridged versions of things, but the full Journey to the West is like 2,000 pages. It's like 4 volumes. And right now it's like, I don't know if I'll enjoy the story. So I'm gonna pick up the abridged version. This is probably like one of the only times I'll do that. But yeah, the abridged version is like around 300 pages, I think. And there was a specific translator that I saw who was good. Start with a W. I don't know, I'll have a picture on the screen. And then the last book I currently have on my list is The Faerie Queene. I don't know who, I didn't put authors on here, sorry. So, I'll have pictures. And that was from 1596. That's another one that I don't think I'll get to super soon, but is one that I eventually want to read. So, yeah. Some of these I'm more interested than others, but this is like gonna start soon. Maybe not totally this year, but definitely in January I'm going to be getting to some of these books, and I feel excited about it. I think it's fun to have reading goals, but like you have to be excited about them. And I also think it's fun when you're like exploring like a new genre or whatever, like me, time periods, because it's like educational. Also, I like learning things, so that's that goal that I have. If you have any recommendations, let me know. Mostly I haven't read really old books because I'm intimidated by them. Especially like books that were originally written in English because the language is so different. But I do think there are books that were written like in Middle English though that are like translated into like a modern English. So now I'll talk about the rest of the books that I got from the used book sale that I went to, but there was also a used like library book sale at my college where I got 3 books from there, which this book that I mentioned, I got that from my college book sale, and they're pretty cheap. So I guess I'll start with the other ones from my college book sale. So I got The Goshawk by T.H. White. I really like this edition of it. I think it's like a beautiful cover, but it's pretty short. Yeah, that's pretty short. But I think it's just about, a concentrated duel between Mr. White and a great beautiful hawk. And he's trying to train the hawk. That's really all I know, but it sounded interesting, so I got it. And then I also have Corrigan by Caroline Blackwood, which, again, do I know that much about? No, but I never heard of this book before very recently when I saw somebody mention it and talk about it on Instagram. And then I saw it at the book sale and I was like, it's a sign. So I got it. This one, I think it's very like psychological, almost like thriller-ish from what I remember. Usually the NYRB classics, just that's in this edition, they're usually pretty interesting. So I got that. And then the other books that I got from the other used book sale were 84 Charing Cross Road, which I actually already read. I didn't read it before I bought it. I bought it and then I read it. So, like, you know, you know what I'm saying. It was very easy to read. I mean, because it's made up of letters. It's like, these are real letters that were sent from an American woman living in New York City. It started, I think 1949 was the first time when a letter was sent, but she sends a letter to a bookstore in London, and she's looking for specific books, and they become like her main bookstore and resource for books. And there's like, it's like over 10 years, 20 years? I think it's like 20 years of correspondence between this woman and the bookstore, and like the relationship that they create. It was, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but I read that already. And then I have My Antonia by Willa Cather, which I haven't heard anything about. I don't think I've heard anyone talk about this book before. But as I said, I go to this book sale every single time it happens, and I remember seeing this book there. They had many different editions, but I like the Oxford World Classics editions. So I remember seeing this copy there previous times that I went, and I was like kind of interested in it, but I was like, I don't know. But this time I was like, if that book is still there, I'm gonna get it, because I think maybe I said in the beginning of this video, I don't even know, I've said a lot of things, but recently I've been getting back into classics. I never like was out of classics, but I've just been reading them. Like, that's kind of all I'm reading right now, and I was like, might as well try another one. And this is an American classic. I think it would be interesting to read more American classics, because I've actually read more British classics than American classics. From the back, it sounds like it has a lot to do with the land. And her story is that of the land itself. I don't know. It was like so books that have to do with like humans and their connection to the land and nature, even though in this case I think the land means more like probably their farm, but those kind of ideas interest me, so that's why I picked this one up. And then the last book that I got is A Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold, which, again, one second. Reading this book has made me more excited about this book, even though I already knew about this book for a while. It's pretty popular, and as a student within the environmental sciences, you know, I definitely know about this book. It's another like an, I don't know, what do you call it? Do you call it like a naturalist diary? It's like nature writing, but it is just about things that he observes, I think. There's also pictures. I don't think he was born in Wisconsin. Was he born in? I don't know if he was born in Wisconsin, but he lived and worked in Wisconsin, so a lot of this book takes place in Wisconsin, and I'm from Wisconsin. So there's a connection there, you know, between us. This one I probably won't get to like super soon, but it's nice to have it in my stock, you know. I just have it saved there for later. I feel like that was all I wanted to talk about, really. The main updates that I had, just things that I'm currently reading or just finished that I thought were important, and then my goals. That was like a big thing I wanted to talk about, just because they're making me excited about reading, and like I want to read more. So that's always good when you're excited about reading. And I kind of wanted to share those with someone like who I don't have that many people to talk to about books in real life, and if I do talk to them, they don't know what I'm talking about maybe part of the time. So I would like any other recommendations that have to do with any of those goals, or like from any of the authors I mentioned. If there's any books that you specifically recommend, then I would like to know. And then yeah, we went through the book haul, which again, possibly I will be getting more books, as I said. It's okay. My TBR isn't too large. I think I'm about 29 now, because I finished a book. I don't know. It's 30 or under, which I think is good. If it gets over 30, I don't like that. It's a little stressful. But 20 to 30 is where it's usually at, and I'm good with that. So thank you for watching this video. If you watched the whole thing, then we had a nice long chat, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Yeah, that's all I have to say. There's nothing else to say.